Welcome back, college football fans and Hawkeye fans everywhere, to another episode of the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. I'm your usual host, Blair Parks. It's great to be back with you here once again. It is Thursday morning, and I have a very special episode on tap for you here shortly. Now, it's been a few days since the unveiling of the final college football playoff rankings, which now gives us the official college football playoff bracket. And even though this is not an instant reaction and recap, but this is my reaction and recap to the official college football playoff bracket, I'm going to discuss with you whether, as far as am I happy with the committee, I am going to give them an official grade. I'm going to discuss with you the teams that got in. I'm going to discuss with you and mention teams that maybe should not have got in, and also teams that maybe should be in. And then I'm going to wrap it up with going through the fallout as far as what has happened, what has the ramifications been, what has been the cause and effect of some of this chaos. And then finally, I'm going to share with you my ideas of how can we possibly fix this, because it seems like no matter what we do, we are always going to have drama when it comes to the aftermath of Selection Sunday. But before I get into the episode, I want to say, as always, thank you for everything that you have done and will continue to do for the channel. It's been another successful season here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, but none is possible without your support, your time. So please do whatever you can to help the channel continue to grow. It would be appreciated for any likes, shares, comments. I always ask for, appreciate, and welcome your participation. So please get involved. Comment below to any of the opinions or facts or hot takes that I present to you. And please subscribe. Tell your fellow college football fanatics, your coworkers, your family members, your friends to check me out here on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog, because I want to find more college football fans just like you. All right. And once again, thank you. It's been a great season. And now we have the accumulation of that system and this season, to where now, after all the smoke has cleared, we see who the 12 final teams are left standing, and the 12 teams that have a seat at this year's big boy table of the college football playoff. All right. Now, as I said, it's been several days, and I'm okay with that. I think I did this purposely because I wanted to make sure that I had ample time to kind of take in and embrace everything that we saw fall into place on Selection Sunday, the teams, the seedings. I wanted to give ample time to, evaluate, reflect, and I also wanted to get my thoughts clear, and I really wanted to see what the fallout was going to be. And boy, oh boy, am I happy I did that, because as I mentioned just a little bit ago, there's been a lot of ramifications from what we saw take place on Selection Sunday. All right, so really quickly, let me go ahead and just update you on what the final bracket is. Let's go ahead and start off with our top 4 seeds. Remember, the top 4 seeds earn the automatic buys. We have Indiana in the 1st seed, 2nd seed Ohio State, 3rd seed Georgia, followed by the final 1st round bye with the 4th seed is Texas Tech. 5th seed went to Oregon. The 6th seed went to Ole Miss. 7 was given to Texas A&M. 8 was to Oklahoma. 9 went to Alabama. Number 10 went to Miami. Number 11 went to Tulane. And number 12 went to James Madison, JMU. That's right. You're not hearing things. By now you know that we have not one, but 2 teams in this year's playoff from the group of 5 ranks. And who saw that coming? But we did see potentially this scenario playing out heading in to conference championship weekend. All right, so that's what the final bracket ended up looking like. So now let me go ahead and go into how I think the committee did overall. And please, once again, like, share, subscribe, and comment. Fire up, fire away, light up that comment section below. I can't wait to hear from you. I promise I will get back to each and every one of you much sooner than later via those comments. So how do I think the committee did overall? Well, I will give you my final grade here very shortly, but I'll give you a little bit of a clue. It's definitely not an A+, but it's definitely not a D or an F. I mean, they did pass. I mean, this was a very, very tough year, and there were, I'm sure, a lot of thoughts and reasons that went into their final decision for teams and seedings, but I'll let you know how they did overall. So once again, not an A, but definitely not a D or an F, okay? So I did share with you the teams that ended up making the final cut. So let's go into the teams. Let's go right now go into seeding. Okay, I want to go and start off with how do I think they did with the seeding of the 12 participants. And overall, I think they did an excellent job. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the top 4, the teams that earned a first round bye. Indiana, obviously it came down to whoever was going to win the Big Ten title game between Indiana and Ohio State was going to be the overall number 1, and the Hoosiers took care of business and shocked the world. Well, some of you it's a shock, but I've been saying all year, the best teams have been week in, week out, Indiana and Texas Tech. So Indiana is the 1 seed. Now, I'm a little bit surprised that the 2 seed went to Ohio State, who lost to Indiana. Now, I was kind of thinking the loser of this game would fall potentially in the 3 hole, but then again, it was a very competitive game. A 1-possession ball game would it end up being between Ohio State and Indiana, and those were the only 2 teams that went undefeated all season. So because it was a close game, it came down to the wire, I'm okay with them being the number 2 seed, but I was expecting that loser to fall to the 3, but I'm okay with it. Number 3 is the SEC champion, the Georgia Bulldogs, who absolutely laid a beatdown against the Alabama Crimson Tide, and I'm going to talk about them here in a little bit for you. I'm totally okay with Georgia being there. And finally, number 4, the Big 12 champion, Texas Tech, laid an even bigger beatdown on their opponent, BYU, than Georgia laid on Alabama. And I do have some things to say about BYU here in a little bit as well, so definitely stick around. You don't want to go anywhere. So the top 4 overall, fine. I'm fine with it, all right? The 5 seed, now the 5 seed, the 5 and 6, I was thinking they were going to be flip-flopped, but it's okay. I had Ole Miss being the 5 seed, but the committee went with Oregon at number 5, primarily because their only loss was at home against the overall number 1 seed, Indiana, by 10 points earlier this season. So they had Oregon number 5, and they went with Ole Miss number 6. But as I said, I actually had them flip-flops, but overall, it's okay. I'm fine with that. Number 7. Now, I was a little bit surprised by this. They have 1 loss, 11-1 Texas A&M, the Aggies, who had a great season. They deserved to be in. They, played their way in. But I thought maybe they could have been the 8 seed, all right? Because when you look at their schedule, yes, they have a great non-conference win at Indiana and South Bend by 1 point, which that was a major factor for what happened with the overall selection. But when you look at their conference games, all right, it really is a tale of who they didn't play. They didn't play SEC heavyweights, Georgia, Alabama, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, Ole Miss. They didn't play any of them. I mean, the toughest team they played was Texas on the final weekend of the year on Black Friday, and they lost at Texas. I mean, their best win in conference probably is against 5-loss LSU on the road in Baton Rouge. So Texas A&M, you go 11-1, you absolutely deserve to be in the field as a Power 4 Division I conference team. But other than that Notre Dame victory, I mean, A&M's overall schedule or resume schedule is really, really weak. It is, but 7, I'm okay with that. All right. The 8th seed was Oklahoma. And Oklahoma so they'll be hosting a game just like A&M will be. And Oklahoma will be hosting number 9 Alabama, a rematch from at the end of the season when Oklahoma went to Tuscaloosa, defeated Alabama in Titletown, which really kind of punched their ticket into the college football playoff field. So being a rematch, we'll kind of wait to see what happens. But I think Alabama should have fallen. Now, this is the first real talking point that I'm getting to. A lot of individuals believed that a 3-loss Alabama team should have been left out of this year's college football playoff bracket, but I absolutely disagree with that, okay? They have great wins, all right? But the one thing they do have, so to play devil's advocate here, the one thing they do have on their resume that sets them apart is they have the most terrible loss on their resume of any college football playoff team or anyone who ended up being in the final discussion with that loss week 1 at 7-loss Florida State, which no one saw that coming. So that's why a lot of people believe that Alabama, with that terrible loss and then really being non-competitive in the SEC title game versus Georgia, with 3 losses and looking like that, the eye test, and down the stretch, they definitely didn't look very Alabama-like, especially on offense, but they did have a lot of injuries down the stretch. A lot of people believe they should have just been left out. I was never concerned because I look at it this way. They also have a great win, probably the best win of the season, perhaps, at Georgia. They defeated the Bulldogs between the hedges down there in Athens. But I don't believe a team should be penalized for playing an extra game against a legit opponent. If you get there now, if Alabama had 3 losses already going into the SEC title game, that's a different scenario. Or 4 losses, right? But only having 2, you cannot leave a team out for getting to their conference championship game with the resume that they had overall. But even though another, team with a very good record got left out, and I'll get to that here in a little bit. So Alabama should have been in. They are in, but I think they could have maybe been the 10 seed. Okay, and I'll get to that more here in a little bit. So the 10 seed ended up being Miami, which ultimately ended up being kind of the last team in. All right. The 11 seed went to Tulane. They will play their opening round game at Ole Miss. This is a rematch from a game played, I think, in week 2 or 3. It was like a 4 or 5 touchdown blowout. I mean, it was non-competitive, but Tulane absolutely deserves to get in. They're the highest ranked group of 5 conference champion. And sneaking in to some was number 12, James Madison JMU, and they open up their college football playoff tournament at Oregon up in Eugene, winners of the Sun Belt title, 12-1 overall. So that's where the seeds are. Like I said, Alabama, I think, should have been a little bit lower for a team that got in. Maybe you could have flip-flopped Oregon and Ole Miss 5 and 6, maybe Ohio State number 3, but overall, I think the seeding was very well done. I don't have much of a problem with it, but I'll get to that where I think they should have been if the teams that I believe deserved and belonged the most would have gotten there. Okay? So let's talk about the teams that should not be in. All right? And this is a tough thing for me to say because you all know that I love the little guy. All right? And I was really afraid that when expansion happened, and even the initial 4-team playoff, that we were never going to see the little guy ever get a chance. But we did see Cincinnati from the American Athletic, break that ceiling. They shattered it. They made a playoff appearance. So it's so hard for me to root against the little guy, but I have to be honest with myself and with you, my fellow college football brothers and sisters, that James Madison, to me, did not deserve to get in. I mean, I'm happy for them, but let's just look at this. Is this really going to be a competitive game at Oregon? I think Oregon's already a 22 or 23-point favorite. I mean, we've seen stranger things happen, all right? And it could, right? But I just don't think that this is going to be a very competitive game. It might be a little bit of a snoozer. And we had that for the majority of the first round games last year, all right? Because what I look at, and I think this is kind of the mission, I think, of the committee when they expanded, is there's two variables that go into it as far as overall who should get in. It used to be more the best teams, but it needs to be the best teams and the most deserving. Because before, the most deserving would get let out. Like the last year of the 4-team playoff, there was no doubt that 13-0 undefeated Florida State absolutely deserved to get into the field. But without their starting quarterback, the last two games that we saw, they just were not one of the 4 best teams in the country. And that's why they were left out of the invitation list. So the committee has to take that into mind. The most deserving and the best teams. So I think James Madison should have stayed at home. And it's hard for me to say that. It just is. Okay? So now you're asking, okay, well, Blair, who do you think should have taken James Madison's place? And the easy answer is the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, which I'm going to get to them here in a little bit. But I've been saying on this channel for weeks, and I just alluded to it a little bit ago with Alabama, a team that gets to their conference championship game should not be penalized because of that, especially when they lose to a fellow legit college football playoff caliber team, and that is exactly what happened to BYU. BYU entered the Big 12 title game 11-1 with their only loss at Texas Tech, which was non-competitive, and then they lost Saturday afternoon also against Texas Tech in a worst way, all right? So they're 11-2 overall, 2 losses to the number 4 overall seed, but yet they get left out. When Alabama, people were saying they got to be left out, but some were saying you can't leave out or penalize a championship runner-up, and I totally agree with that. So if that is the norm, if that's what protocol is, then how can you keep Alabama in but leave BYU out? Especially when you look at BYU's resume. Overall, they've got wins over ranked Arizona, ranked Utah, wins at Iowa State, at Cincinnati. I mean, I think they have 4 or 5 wins over Power 4 conference teams that are going to the postseason. But the thing they don't have is they don't have a bad loss at all. So I was really disappointed, and I've been a huge proponent of BYU getting in, and they should have been in the field regardless of what happened in the Big 12 title game against Texas Tech. I think that really is the main highway robbery to me, and the biggest disappointment and letdown is BYU not getting in compared to Notre Dame. All right, so let me know what you think about that. Now let's talk about the team that got in over Notre Dame, and that is the Miami Hurricanes. All right, Miami overall went 10-2. Now they didn't win the ACC title game. They didn't even get to the ACC title game. All right, so they are historically, I mean, when you look at the last at-large bid, that's them to a T. Okay, so they're 10-2. They don't really have any terrible losses. They have a home loss against Florida in the regular season, and then an overtime loss at a pretty solid SMU team. So no really bad losses, but their biggest win. And this is something that I've been saying all week to just squash like a bug that discussion that's been going on all week long. Oh, Notre Dame should be in over Miami. They got screwed. I'll say this for all fairness. Once again, I'm playing both sides of the fence here. Down the stretch, watching both of these teams play, absolutely the eye test, I think Notre Dame is a better team. But remember, it has to be best and most deserving. Miami has the same record as Notre Dame. They both had 2 losses, but Miami defeated Notre Dame head to head, straight up. So with the same record, you have to take Miami. Even though maybe they looked like a better team, did Notre Dame, and maybe their resume was a tad bit stronger, but there's no way you could have taken Notre Dame and not taken Miami because of that head-to-head victory. That has to matter for something, okay? So that's all I can say is Notre Dame, I know there's been a lot of crying, a lot of disappointment, and I understand that, but you're the same record and they beat you head-to-head. Even though it was week 1, and teams sometimes do get better as the season progresses, and Notre Dame definitely has, but head-to-head has to mean something. And by looking at that, Miami deserved it more than Notre Dame. They just did, all right? If Notre Dame's 10-1, and that one loss is against Miami, then Notre Dame's in over Miami because they have a better record, all right? I don't really understand why some people are really griping about this because that's just fact. You can't overlook that. Head-to-head, Miami's in over Notre Dame, 2 teams for 1 spot. Sorry. All right? So I think the committee got it right with Miami, but obviously I do think that BYU should have been in over both Notre Dame and James Madison. And really because, now do I think BYU's better than Notre Dame? Maybe not, but still, you're a member of a conference, you got to a conference championship game, and you have the same amount of losses, but you had 1 extra game. BYU, if it came down to BYU or Notre Dame, it's got to be BYU getting in. I'm sorry. Their resume is better. They have better wins. They just do. All right? So that's what my only gripe is with who's in and who should have been out or who should have been in. So how I would have ranked it, the playoff bracket that I wanted, that I think was for the teams that were the best and the most deserving, I would have had number 1 seed Indiana. I would have had number 2 Ohio State, number 3 Georgia, number 4 Texas Tech. So the exact same top 4 that the committee had. At number 6, I would have had Ole Miss. I would have had Oregon number 6. Yep. Ole Miss number 5. I would have had Ole Miss number 6, excuse me. At number 7, I think I would have gone with, at number 7, probably, I think A&M probably is it at that point. Number 7, A&M. Number 8, I would have had Oklahoma. Number 9, number 9 is where it gets a little bit tough for me. I probably at number 9 would have had, oh boy, maybe Alabama there. And then number 10, I think I would have had Tulane. I think Tulane definitely deserved to be number 10. I think number 11 would have been BYU. And to me, this was a no-brainer. I was telling myself if Miami ends up getting in, which I think they did deserve it, they have to be the last team in, which they were. So how can they not be the 12 seed? That's where I disagree. I would have had BYU 11 and Miami number 12 because They were the last team in. Once again, they didn't win their conference championship. They didn't even play in their conference championship. So I don't see how you could justify Miami not being the number 12 seed. I just don't. I mean, that's where I was just really flabbergasted. Like, this doesn't make any damn sense. They're even saying Miami's the last team in. Then why aren't they number 12? Why aren't they the 12 seed? And what a good game that would have been. Number 12 Miami against number 5 Ole Miss or number 5 Oregon. That would have been a hell of an opening round game. All right, but things that could have been but never shall be, I suppose. So that's what the bracket I thought was deserving and the way they should have been seeded. Let me know what you think about my college football playoff bracket. Do you agree? Disagree? Why or why not? What teams do you think should have been in? What teams, if any, should have been out? This team should have been seated higher, this team lower. Go ahead and light up that comment section below, and I can't wait to hear from you. So the fallout from all of this, all right, this is the last thing I want to go into this and maybe what can we do to fix this, is the fallout and the ramifications, the cause and effect. I'm really glad that I, once again, held off on doing this episode on Monday because everything that has come out of the Notre Dame camp now, I get it. Their players are disappointed. There's frustration. There's a good argument to be made to maybe, they got the shaft. Maybe they got screwed. I get it. And I sympathize with the Notre Dame camp, the team, the program, the fans, the community. I do. But Notre Dame, in response to being, in their eyes, snubbed, they opted out of any bowl game. So they will not be going to the postseason, even though they were 10-2. They would have been in a legit bowl. I think that's weak sauce to me. I think to respond that way was an absolute farce. I think it sets a terrible premise, and it's awful looking just optically for Notre Dame. All right, I've talked on this channel several times the amount of respect I have for Coach Freeman at Notre Dame, but I got to tell you, this brought him down a couple rungs on the ladder to me. Now, I get it. Maybe he took a vote and his team, the vast majority, didn't want to play. Like, hey, what's the point? We got snubbed. This is how we're going to protest. This is how we'll stick it to them. I get that. But as a coach, you need to still hold your team accountable and say, men, I understand you. I hear you. If you make that decision not to participate in a postseason game, I respect that. I will honor it. But hey, we have practice starting Monday morning and at this time, this place, and that's where I expect all of you to be. Now, I don't know all of the details. Maybe that decision came from above Marcus Freeman, maybe from the AD or the president or the council at Notre Dame there in South Bend. I don't know. But I think it's a terrible look. And they do deserve, I think, a lot of the pushback that they're getting, how they're looking like little babies, all the crying, all the whining. I'm sorry, but you're not doing yourself a favor. You're not, okay? So I do feel sorry for them not playing. And plus, I feel sorry for the players, especially who wanted to play, because there's some cats in that locker room. They're out of eligibility. Hey, I'm not going to play after this. I'm not an NFL talent level kind of guy. I don't have any eligibility. I just want to strap it on one last time with my brothers in battle on the field to represent my university, this program, the fans, the alums, the community, and myself and my family, and they get robbed of that opportunity. So I feel terrible for those players because damn well not every one of them wanted to opt out. So if you're able to field a team, then show up and play. I mean, Florida State did that against Georgia 2 years ago when they felt so snubbed, not getting in 13-0 into the 14 playoff. So many of those cats opted out. didn't want to play or transfer. They got absolutely mollywopped by Georgia, but still they showed up for that one last memory on that field together or for themselves. So I feel terrible for the players, the fans too. If you're a Notre Dame fan, you should be absolutely up in arms. You can be upset and feel that you got snubbed or, hey, we got screwed, we got bent over. You can. But when you found out that your team was going to opt out overall, you should have been taking it to the streets, forming a mob and saying, no, I want one more game. Because as fans, that's what we always want. We always want more. So I feel terrible for Notre Dame Fighting Irish fans all over the world. I do. Even though some of them are standing by their team. Hey, stand by your man, like Timmy Wynette's saying about, right? But I think the fans should be completely up in arms and really disappointed with this. Notre Dame fans, if someone's tuning in, please hit me up below. I want to hear your side of it, your perspective. Or do you think you were screwed? Or do you understand why you were left out? Was it the right call, the wrong call? What do you think about the team opting out? Irish fans, let me know below. But I feel terrible for the players and the fans. And also the revenue that they're losing for their school. That's huge. I mean, the coverage, the eyeballs, I think it's a huge mistake what Notre Dame's doing. And quite frankly, I can't fathom it. If Iowa was to do that, absolutely, you'd be hearing it from me. You must play the game. I'd be the first to be telling all of you that. Now, how can we maybe fix all of this? Because now we're seeing teams opt out in protest, right? I know right now a lot of people are saying the only way to fix this is to expand to 16 or 24. No, that is not the way. I mean, sorry, I'm not going to sit there and say what the Mandalorian says, this is the way. It's not. Because when we expand, if you are going to expand further, there is always going to be room for one team to put up a hissy fit like this. They will never get it right, okay? They won't. So expanding is not the solution. You're always going to have drama and arguing and talking points. You're going to have this happen, regardless how many teams and spots are available, okay? So do not expand. Don't even think about exploring that option. And plus, if you expand, who is it really going to benefit? We all know. I mean, come on. It's not a secret. It's going to most benefit and help the Big Two, the Big Ten, and the SEC. Come on. You don't want to expand, all right? I'll say this, for Notre Dame especially, for anybody who's an independent, this is what I've been saying for years, that to qualify for the college football playoff field, you have to at least be a member of a conference. Doesn't have to be a Power 4 conference, but you must be a certified member of one of the conferences, which means then you have to have the ability to play in a conference championship game. So I think any independent should not be able to qualify for the college football playoff. So Notre Dame, you've got to make a decision. And I think now, seeing this happen, it will be done sooner than later. Notre Dame, you gotta find a dance partner. You've got to join a conference, all right? I think there's only 2 independents left anyway, just Notre Dame and UConn, I believe, okay? And the other things I think that should be required to qualify, I think every Power 4 conference team should play 9 conference games, and hallelujah, that's going to be happening next year because finally the ACC and the SEC are going to put their big boy pants on. I mean, the Big Ten and the Big 12, we've been playing, 9 conference games for going on almost a decade now. So I think you have to have 9 conference games, and I think in non-con, you have to play at least one fellow Power 4 conference team to even qualify to get into the college football playoff field, all right? So how else can we fix it? I'll tell you right now, I said this before, I think 8 teams was it. I was all about expanding from 4, but I said you should expand to 8 teams. That would have been the perfect number. And actually, it would have been 8 spots among 9 teams because I explained a couple seasons ago that last spot would be a play-in game. So the 2 final remaining at-larges, right? Hey, we're going to have a play-in game on conference championship weekend, and the winner of that game is the number 8 seed. So you still would have had, room for the 5 highest ranked conference champions, right? Including somebody from the group of 5. And then you would have had the 3 at-larges, all right? But really, 4 teams playing for 3 spots. So I think 8 was enough. I think they expanded largely too quickly. That's just my take on it. So maybe take a step backwards to 8, but because sometimes you have to move backwards in order to move forwards, okay? And finally, my overall grade, I almost forgot that grading the committee overall, like I said, definitely was a passing grade, but not an A. I was kind of stuck between a C plus and a B minus, but I can't be too disappointed. I mean, I would have liked to see BYU get in there, but seeing 2 group of 5 teams make it, I am happy because I do want to see the little guy get an opportunity. So I can't be too frustrated and up in arms about it. So ultimately, and the seeding was very close to what I had and would have liked to have seen. So I'm going to go ahead and give the committee a B minus overall. All right, so that's my final grade. And that's where I am, my thoughts, my analysis, my takes on the college football playoff field. So please get involved, comment below. I can't wait to hear from you, all of my fellow college football brothers and sisters, all you college football fanatics. Get involved, hit me up below, like, share, subscribe, rate. Tell everyone to check me out here in the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. So thank you for your continued support, your time, everything that you have done for the channel. I will be back not once, but twice next week. I am going to have an episode early in the week where I'll share with you my top 7 favorite bowl games that I am most looking forward to. That's going to be the 2 biggest first-round college football playoff games and the 5 biggest non-playoff bowl matchups that I'm most looking forward to. And then late in the season, it's all about the Iowa Hawkeyes for all of my fellow Hawkeye fans. Well, I'll be coming to you with my 2025 Iowa Hawkeye season review episode. So be on the lookout for those. So until then, thank you for all that you have done. Enjoy the rest of your work day or your school day and your school or work week. Be safe, be responsible, enjoy yourself, and I'll see you very soon on the Touchdown Black and Gold vlog. And as always, go Hawks. Bye-bye.